What if a single battle didn't just, change the course of a war, but fundamentally redefined how we understand human endurance and strategy and just sheer horror?
And what if how we learn about that battle is just as vital as the facts themselves?
Exactly. Today, we're plunging into Antony Beevor's incredible book, Stalingrad, The Fateful Siege, 1942-1943.
A truly monumental work.
It really is. And our mission here isn't just to recap Stalingrad's history. We want to unpack how Beevor, this master historian, actually crafted a narrative that completely shifted Western understanding of the Eastern Front.
We'll be looking at his methods, his techniques, and why this book still resonates so powerfully today.
And just so you know, you are experiencing a unique two-host AI conversation powered by Google's NotebookLM, which helps us get into deeper, more dynamic book analysis.
Right, so let's set the stage.
Okay, let's unpack this. Who is Antony Beevor? What gives him the sort of authority to tackle a subject as huge and harrowing as Stalingrad?
Well, Beevor's background is pretty crucial here. He's a really distinguished British military historian, and importantly, he has actual military service himself.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he served with the 11th Hussars. After his service, he became a full-time writer, and his histories, especially on World War II, they've won major awards, the Samuel Johnson Prize, the Wolfson Prize for History.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it's this mix of rigorous academic research and that firsthand military understanding. It really gives his writing a lot of credibility, a real weight. It's not just theory for him.
That makes sense. So it wasn't just his credentials, but the timing was important too, wasn't it? What was going on when this book came out?
Oh, the timing was absolutely critical. Stalingrad was published in 1998. And the key thing is, this was after the Soviet archives that had been locked up for decades, were finally open.
Right, that must have been huge.
It was revolutionary for historians. For years, understanding the Eastern Front meant relying heavily on, Soviet-approved narratives. But now, Beevor had access to unprecedented material.
So new documents, new perspectives.
Exactly. He could use these newly available documents, plus survivor interviews, things that just weren't possible before on this scale. And he was writing for a Western audience that, after the Cold War, was finally getting more interested in the real story of the Eastern Front, which had often been overlooked.
And who is he really aiming this book at? Who did Beevor want to reach?
It seems like quite a broad audience, actually. History buffs, certainly, students, but also general readers interested in WWII.
So not just academics.
No, definitely not. He was aiming for people who wanted those human stories within the big picture history, people looking for objective, deeply researched accounts of these key battles. And Beevor's writing style is brilliant at this. It manages to be accessible to the average reader while still having the depth and rigor that experts appreciate.
Okay, this is where it gets really fascinating for me. Beyond just laying out the facts, what was Beevor's ultimate goal with this book? What did he want us to feel or maybe understand differently about Stalingrad?
Well, his main purpose seems twofold. To inform, yes, but also to really immerse the reader. He wanted to show not just the military strategy, the troop movements, but what he called the savage intimacy of the fighting.
Savage intimacy. What does that mean exactly?
It's that brutal, desperate closeness. Think fighting not across fields, but room to room, cellar to cellar, where survival meant understanding the raw reality of the person right next to you, friend or foe. He really highlights the immense suffering for soldiers and civilians.
So challenging existing ideas.
Absolutely. He aimed to challenge those Western perceptions. To redefine Stalingrad not just as a turning point, but as the war's psychological turning point, and maybe even more profoundly, as a new form of warfare. He wanted us to grapple with its true, horrifying nature.
Like how the very nature of combat changed.
Precisely. He shows how it stopped being about traditional front lines. It became about individual buildings, stairwells, even sewers. This incredibly claustrophobic, intimate brutality that really shattered old ideas of fighting and left this deep psychological scar.
And the sheer scope of the subject. It's huge, isn't it? Way more than just battle plans.
Oh, definitely. The subject covers the battle's, unvarnished horrors, the unbelievable courage people showed, the stark cruelty, frankly, on all sides, and ultimately the deep sense of futility for both the Germans and the Soviets caught in it.
So he goes beyond just the military stuff.
Yeah, he weaves in the political decisions happening far away, the social context of the time, and these incredibly powerful personal experiences. It's a whole picture from Hitler and Stalin down to the individual soldier freezing in a foxhole.
Given how grim, how brutal the subject is, how does Beevor manage the tone?
Yeah.
How does he convey the brutality without just, sensationalizing it?
That's one of his real strengths, I think. He walks this very fine line. The writing is unflinching, it's vivid, you see it, but there's often this sense of detached, almost journalistic objectivity.
So factual, but still impactful.
Exactly. He balances this deep sense of tragedy with objective analysis. The horror never feels exploitative or gratuitous. And what's interesting is the tone actually gets more intimate when he focuses on individual stories. He draws you into their specific experiences within the chaos, but still maintains that respect, that refusal to sensationalize their suffering.
Okay, so what was the driving force? What made Beevor feel like he had to write this book right then? What was the urgency, the exigence, as they call it?
Right, the exigence. It was really about responding to two big things. First, that long-standing lack of focus in the West on the Eastern Front, despite it being, the biggest, deadliest theater of the war.
A huge gap in understanding.
A massive gap. And second, the sudden availability of all those Soviet sources we talked about. He saw an opportunity, maybe even a responsibility, to correct misconceptions and really hammer home how central Stalingrad was to changing the entire course of World War II. It was about filling that critical void.
It's clear he wanted to present the facts, the logic. But how does he make us feel it? Feel the human cost? That emotional appeal, the pathos. How does he master that without overdoing it?
He does it through incredibly powerful, specific imagery. He doesn't just say the fighting was bad. He calls it stationary annihilation. That phrase alone. It paints a picture of soldiers just standing their ground, being systematically destroyed.
Wow.
He describes the starvation of civilians in agonizing detail. And crucially, he humanizes it all by weaving in personal stories. You follow individuals like Lieutenant Smyslov from Russian intelligence witnessing these unspeakable acts, or Dyatlenko from the NKVD, whose story shows the brutal internal discipline.
Real people, real experiences.
Exactly. And he includes raw historical accounts, things like Soviet soldiers being forced into battle drunk, families being ripped apart, and the atrocities committed by both sides. He doesn't shy away from any of it.
And the effect is?
The cumulative effect is horror, yes, but also sympathy and deep reflection. It's precisely because he uses these specific personal details that it hits so hard without needing to be sensational. You feel the individual lives caught up in it.
Okay, so you've got this powerful emotional impact. How does he balance that with the hard facts, the logic? How does he build that logical case, the logos?
His logos is built on just meticulous evidence. He draws heavily from those newly opened archives, from war diaries, personal letters, even interrogation reports, raw, primary source material.
The bedrock of his argument.
Absolutely. He gives you clear timelines, clear strategic analysis. He always puts key decisions in context. Like, he carefully explains Hitler's shift moving from practical military goals for Stalingrad to purely symbolic ones, a decision that proved disastrous.
And his reasoning style.
It's a really effective mix. Often it's inductive. He builds from lots of small, specific, harrowing examples and observations to draw these larger conclusions about the nature of the battle.
Ground-up reasoning.
Right. But it's also deductive. He'll provide the big strategic overview, the political context, and then use that to frame the chaotic street-level fighting. So you get both the micro and the macro perspectives working together. It's very convincing.
Let's unpack that a bit more. What are the specific writing tools, the techniques Beevor uses to actually do this, to make the book so gripping but also so informative?
Well, his language and style are key. It's sophisticated, often formal, but somehow still very accessible. He switches smoothly between technical military terms when he needs to explain strategy or weapons, and then shifts to this really emotional, concrete language when describing the human experience.
And sentence structure, does that play a role?
Definitely. He varies his sentence length a lot. You'll get these long, flowing, descriptive passages that really set the scene, establish the atmosphere, and then suddenly he'll hit you with these short, terse, brutal sentences that deliver a fact with real punch. That contrast creates a powerful rhythm.
It's not just the words, but how he uses them too, right?
Yeah.
Figurative language.
Precisely. He uses metaphor and analogy really effectively. A key one is framing Stalingrad as a crucible.
A crucible?
Yeah, like a vessel where things are subjected to intense heat and pressure. He presents Stalingrad as this place where ideologies, human bodies, entire military strategies were not just tested but utterly destroyed, broken down, and then sometimes remade or reshaped from the ashes of all that suffering. It's a really potent image that captures the transformation that happened there.
And the structure of the book itself, how does that contribute to its impact?
The structure is crucial. It's basically a chronological narrative, which makes it easy to follow. but he skillfully weaves in thematic sections within that timeline.
So it flows chronologically, but with focused parts.
Exactly. You get the buildup, the German advance, then that intense urban siege phase, the stationary annihilation part,
Yeah.
then the Soviet encirclement, the big reversal, and finally, the grim aftermath.
And within that structure.
He uses techniques like repetition and parallelism really well. Themes of, say, suffering or resilience or just the sheer absurdity of the situation keep echoing throughout the narrative. It reinforces how pervasive these things were. And he uses juxtaposition, brilliantly contrasting German and Soviet experiences, or the leader's detached hubris versus the soldier's agony on the ground. That contrast between calculated strategy and just chaotic survival is stark.
Wow. As we talk about how Beevor put this powerful narrative together,
Yeah.
it really makes you think about how these stories shape our whole understanding, doesn't it?
It really does. The craft matters immensely.
And if you're finding this look at how powerful communication works interesting, you might want to check out Mindful Moments over on our YouTube channel.
Yeah.
They offer more AI-powered book analyses like this, really designed to spark reflection and rational thought.
Good point. And beyond those core techniques, Beevor uses some more advanced rhetorical devices too, subtly but effectively.
Like what?
Well, there's allusion. He might weave in quotes from Russian poetry, like Anna Akhmatova, or reference other major WWII battles or ideologies. It adds these extra layers of historical and cultural depth.
That's interesting.
And irony. There's a deep irony in how strategic victories often lead directly to humanitarian catastrophe. Stalingrad was definitely a psychological turning point, a strategic win for the Soviets eventually, but it was an almost unimaginable human disaster for everyone involved.
A victory that felt like anything but for those on the ground.
Precisely. And he uses implied rhetorical questions. He doesn't directly ask, what is heroism in this hell? Or what's the cost of fanaticism? But the stories he tells force you, the reader, to ponder these huge questions. The narrative itself raises them.
So pulling it all together, did Beevor actually achieve what he set out to do? Was the book effective? Did it reshape understanding?
I think overwhelmingly yes. It's widely seen as the definitive account of the battle, certainly in English. It absolutely succeeded in reshaping public understanding both about the Eastern Front's critical importance and the sheer, almost unbelievable human cost.
And it worked for his intended audience.
I believe so. He managed that balance we talked about, enough technical detail for those interested, but always grounded in compelling personal narratives. That makes it accessible and engaging, whether you're a historian or just someone wanting to understand this pivotal moment.
You know, the really tricky part, how does he handle the brutality, the sensitivity, without glorifying war or taking sides? That's a huge ethical tightrope for a historian.
And he walks it incredibly well. His narrative coherence is strong, but he scrupulously avoids glorifying anything. Atrocities are presented frankly, matter-of-factly, without embellishment, and crucially, he doesn't take ethical sides. He shows brutality and heroism existed among Soviets, Germans, civilians, everyone caught in it.
How does he achieve that neutrality?
It comes down to the quality and variety of his sources, which allow for that deep, multifaceted insight, and his willingness, his determination to confront uncomfortable truths no matter which side they reflect poorly on. That adds immense rigor and integrity.
What makes it feel so sophisticated then?
It's partly that integration of multiple perspectives we mentioned. You're invited to empathize, or at least understand, the experiences on all sides. He treats traumatic subjects with real respect, and he highlights the long-lasting impact on both Russian and German national identity. His analysis delves into moral ambiguities, leadership failures, alongside incredible sacrifice. And he avoids common pitfalls you see in some history writing. This isn't just a summary, this happened, then this happened. Beevor consistently explains how and why things unfolded.
He shows his working, so to speak.
Exactly. He analyzes the effect of his own narrative choices, and he deeply situates everything, the battle, the decisions, the suffering within the psychological, ideological, and cultural background of the time. And it's all built on solid evidence, testimony, documents, synthesized from many angles.
So we've taken quite a journey into Antony Beevor's Stalingrad. We've really tried to dissect his masterful approach, how he researched it, how he wrote it, how he used rhetoric.
And it's clear his meticulous work and narrative skill fundamentally changed how we understand not just a battle, but a crucial part of the 20th century.
Yeah, looking at how these powerful stories get told, not just what they tell us. It really reveals a lot. This book isn't just history. It feels like a deep meditation on survival, on moral collapse, on what humans are capable of, for good and ill.
Absolutely.
For more analytical journeys like this one, you can continue exploring with Mindful Moments and our podcasts. We dive deeper into compelling ideas and critical thinking there.
So, as you think about Beevor's work, maybe the final question is, what does this book ultimately reveal about humanity itself when pushed to the absolute limit?
And what does it tell us about the enduring power of honest, unflinching historical narrative? Something to definitely ponder. You can click the link on screen or in the show notes for an in-depth summary of the books. Please subscribe to our channel, share this deep dive if you found it valuable, and maybe consider purchasing the book via the link it supports the author's vital work.
And most importantly, keep thinking critically about the stories that shape our world.